So for this particular question, we're talking about one of the hardest topics in the whole standard level IB biology syllabus. And we're talking about nerves, hormones, and homeostasis. This first question, luckily, however, doesn't require that much thinking as long as you know about the definition. You need to know that glucagon is a hormone, and it comes from the pancreas. And there's one other major hormone that you need to know about that comes from there, which is not the pancreas, but rather the insulin. Just had a mental block there. So the way that you remember where they come from is that you remember that A is in glucagon, so it comes from the alpha islets. Okay? Whereas insulin doesn't, so it comes from the beta islets. There you go. So the correct answer is the alpha islets of the pancreas. This is incorrect. Liver cells, they do have some hormones and proteins, but not really this. And the hypothalamus is actually a structure in the brain, which is completely wrong. Question number 2. Which event directly leads to an action potential? So very key kind of leading question here is the word directly. And there are a few things that may lead to an action potential here, but you need to talk about the one which directly precedes it, comes right before the action potential. So A, fusion of vesicles with a presynaptic membrane. So what they're talking about for this particular one is they're talking about synaptic transmission, and this will ultimately lead to a action potential, but a lot later on down the track, because after the fusion of the vesicles with the presynaptic membrane, you have a number of steps afterwards. So it's not that one. B, diffusion of neurotransmitter across the synaptic cleft. Once again, that's not the most direct one, but I mean, this could be a correct answer, because after you have the diffusion, so say you have the presynaptic knob here, and you have the postsynaptic membrane here, then you have, once the neurotransmitter kind of like comes down, then it actually binds the receptors. And it's actually the binding of the receptors which is part of answer C, which causes the, so it's actually the binding of the neurotransmitter which causes an action potential later on. But that's not actually to do with C, just excuse the past few words that I said. But C is indeed the correct answer, because as the membrane potential reaches the threshold potential, then you have an action potential. And that is the most direct, the most closest one which directly precedes the action potential. So if you think about it here, if you had time on the x-axis and you had millivolts on the y-axis, then what you'd expect is a wandering baseline, and then as it hits a certain threshold potential, then it would go up and then down. So it would cause a rapid depolarization. Okay? Breakdown of the neurotransmitter is incorrect. That's actually part of the happenings after the synaptic transmission has occurred. So after this process has all occurred, you've got neurotransmitter left in that junction there, and it's kind of like leaving a bunch of sandwiches in the middle of the road. Someone's got to clean it up, and the thing that's got to clean it up actually results in the breakdown of the neurotransmitter. Question number 3. What are causes of type 1 and type 2 diabetes? Another key concept that you need to know. Anyway, type 1 you need to know is with young people. And the young people, they have no insulin, okay? And then with type 2, it's generally older people. And then they have enough insulin, but what they have is that they have insulin resistance. And that's a key few points that I can provide to you in a sentence about these two particular types of diabetes. So if you look at at option A, an autoimmune disease leading to reduced insulin secretion. Yes, that's right, reduced or no insulin secretion. The decreased responsiveness of the body to insulin. Yes, that's correct. We're talking about resistance. It's not as responsive as it was before. So A seems like our correct answer. Let's look at our other ones. B, decreased responsiveness of the body to insulin. No, that's what happens with type 2, not that one. C, increased responsiveness of the body to insulin. Increased responsiveness? No, that's weird as well. D, an autoimmune disease leading to increased insulin secretion. Well, correct, it is an autoimmune disease, but does it lead to increased insulin resistance? Well, we said that it causes no insulin. So it's not D either. So therefore the correct answer is A. Question number 4. So So now we're finally getting into synaptic transmission. What is indicated by the letters X and Y? So with the letter X, something is going in, and with Y, something seems to be coming out. You've got these vesicles which fuse with the presynaptic membrane, and then things are coming out. And the way you remember this is that calcium comes in, and neurotransmitter navigates out. Okay, so calcium goes in and neurotransmitter navigates out. So let's have a look at X. So what goes in? So we'd be expecting calcium. So it seems like B is the correct answer. How about with Y? Neurotransmitter coming out. Oh, perfect. That's correct. And all the other ones are incorrect because you don't have, in column X, you don't have anything which talks about calcium. B is the only one with calcium. So remember, calcium comes in, neurotransmitter navigates out. Good. Question number 5. What causes the formation of a nerve impulse on the postsynaptic membrane? So when we have the presynaptic knob here, then we have a postsynaptic membrane here. And how does an action potential get started here? So remember, just to quickly recap the process, an action potential will come down the presynaptic knob like that and activate it there. And what happens then? What happens? Calcium comes in. So the calcium comes in. Then after that, what happens? The neurotransmitter navigates out. So the neurotransmitter navigates out. And then after that, as it diffuses across the synaptic cleft, then it binds to the receptors on the other side. And it's a binding of the receptors on the other side which causes the action potential. So then action potential occurs after that, okay? So let's see if you can find that there. Calcium binding with a receptor site. Well, calcium doesn't bind with a receptor site because it comes in, doesn't it? It comes into the presynaptic membrane. Potassium leaking into the postsynaptic. Where did potassium come from? C, neurotransmitter binding with the receptor sites. That seems correct. And D is incorrect. Neurotransmitter being removed from the synapse. Once again, just like in my previous example, you've got excess neurotransmitter there at the end of the day. There's a big mess after a big party. You've got to get rid of the mess, and that's a neurotransmitter being removed from the synapse. That actually doesn't cause the action potential though. Final question. What is the difference between the origin of type 1 and type 2 diabetes? Another diabetes question, and we need to know that type 1, remember, is young people, no insulin. Type 2, old people, insulin resistance. Very important, okay? So A, caused by an autoimmune reaction. Yes, that is correct. A, target cells fail to respond to insulin. Yep, that's correct as well. They're talking about the failure to respond or resistance there. So A seems like our correct answer once again. Type 1 occurs in adults only. Well, not really. We usually said that it occurs in young people. So therefore B is incorrect. C, too much insulin secreted. Absolutely wrong. There's not enough insulin. D, caused by dietary problems? No, not that one. Type 2 is usually caused by dietary problems. And there you go. There are plenty more YouTube videos for you to check out. Just click on the links below. If you'd like to download the questions, as well as the answers, make sure to like us on Facebook first. And finally, if you'd like to find out how I got a 7 in high-level IB biology, make sure to check out our website in the bottom right-hand corner. Thanks.